My name is Lucy, and I am a typical European American woman. I have long, golden hair that falls like a waterfall, shimmering with a charming luster in the sunlight. My deep eyes are like pools of blue water, and my high nose is framed by lips that always curve up slightly, even when I'm not smiling, giving me a touch of playfulness. I am tall, with long, straight legs, and my curvy figure makes many people look at me with envy. My husband Jack and I have been married for 5 years. These 5 years have been like a relentless file, grinding down the once passionate love we shared. Jack is a man with a strong work ethic. Every day, he leaves home before dawn, busy with all kinds of company affairs, and often doesn't return home until late at night, dragging his tired body. Our home is located on the edge of the city, a cozy little villa surrounded by trees in a quiet environment. At one time, I thought this would be a haven for our happy life, but now it seems a bit deserted. In the morning, I always sit alone at the dining table, watching the sun come in through the window and drinking coffee that has cooled down a bit. Once upon a time, I would carefully prepare breakfast for Jack, but now he always rushes out after eating a few bites. Our interactions are limited to simple greetings and daily chores. At night, I often look at myself in the mirror and see my still beautiful face, but my heart is full of loneliness. I will think back to the sweet times when we first got married. At that time, Jack would always look at me with loving eyes, take me to romantic restaurants, and give me all kinds of surprises. But now, those beautiful memories are as remote as a dream. Every day is the same as the last, and I feel like I'm trapped in a cage, unable to find a way out. My daily life consists of housework, shopping, and hanging out with friends, but none of it can fill the emptiness inside me. I long for new excitement and crave someone to rekindle the passion in my heart. Once, I was hanging out with friends at a bar, watching the passionate dancers on stage and listening to the deafening music. I felt like I saw my once energetic self. At that moment, I really wished Jack could be by my side, enjoying this wonderful moment with me. But when I picked up my phone and wanted to send him a message, I put it down again. I knew that he must be busy at work and wouldn't have time to reply to me. After I got home, I lay on the bed, looking at the ceiling, and my longing grew stronger. I knew I couldn't go on like this. I needed to change, to find my own happiness. Just then, I saw the phone on the bedside table, and a thought flashed through my mind. Maybe the online world will bring me a different kind of surprise. It was a boring afternoon. The sunlight outside the window was a little blinding. I was sitting on the sofa in the living room, casually swiping the screen of my phone, trying to find a trace of joy in this dull life. And so, I opened a social networking app by some strange force. In this virtual world, I browsed aimlessly, when suddenly an avatar caught my eye. It was a picture of a man. In the photo, he had a face with sharp angles, a hard outline like it had been carved by a knife, and deep blue eyes that seemed to hide endless secrets, as if they could see right through people's hearts. His hair was slightly curly and hung casually over his forehead, giving him an uninhibited charm. After a moment of hesitation, I clicked the Add as Friend button. I didn't expect that he would accept my friend request soon and send me a message on his own initiative. His first sentence was simple and polite, but it made me feel a strange feeling in my heart. After that, our chats became frequent. His name is Tom, and he is a very talkative person. His words are full of humor, and he can always make me happy just by saying the right thing. We have talked about everything from poetry and songs to life philosophy, from movie music to travel and food. Every exchange made me feel that we had endless topics to talk about. I discovered that Tom had a unique perspective on many things. He would share with me the philosophical books he had read and discuss with me the profound meaning of those classic movies. His thoughts were like a mysterious treasure, and every time I dug into them, I gained new insights. As our conversations deepened, I looked forward to our time together more and more. Every night, I would finish washing up early and lie in bed, waiting for a message from him with bated breath. I would be happy all day for a single compliment from him and blush with excitement at his teasing. My life seemed to have taken on a new color with the appearance of Tom. I began to chat with Tom late into the night, hiding it from Jack. While Jack snored and slept nearby, I was engrossed in my conversations with Tom. Unbeknownst to me, my heart was gradually being taken over by Tom. The once stagnant life had ripples caused by the appearance of Tom. I know that I have fallen into this virtual relationship and it is difficult to extricate myself, but I am willing to do so, hoping that this relationship will bring me more surprises and warmth. As my online exchanges with Tom became more frequent and in-depth, my feelings for him grew like the wild grass that grows wildly in spring, becoming deeper and no longer able to be restrained. Every morning, when the first ray of sunshine enters the room, the first thing I do when I open my eyes is pick up my phone and check to see if Tom has sent me a message. If I see his familiar profile picture flashing, an indescribable joy wells up in my heart, as if the whole day has become extraordinarily beautiful because of it. At night, while Jack snores beside me, I excitedly chat with Tom on both ends of the screen, pouring out my joys and sorrows from the day to him without reservation. Tom is like a ray of sunshine in my life. Whenever I'm feeling down and sad because of Jack's neglect, he can always sense my mood and comfort me with gentle and caring words. He'll tell me funny jokes and share the little blessings in his life, making my mouth unconsciously turn up and the gloom in my heart dissipate. And when I encounter something happy and can't wait to share it with him, he will cheer with me. That sincere joy makes me feel valued and cared for. In my interactions with Tom, I gradually forget about the various disappointments in my real marriage. I no longer spend my days looking at myself in the mirror, feeling sad about the passage of youth and the dullness of my marriage, as I used to. Instead, I was full of anticipation and joy, looking forward to every conversation with Tom and rejoicing in every word of his care for me. I began to carefully prepare for my chats with Tom, just as I had carefully dressed up for my dates with Jack. I would repeatedly consider my words, striving to show the best version of myself. I hid from Jack and carefully kept the chat records with Tom, afraid that he would discover the secret between Tom and me. Before I knew it, my heart had already completely betrayed this marriage. I was caught up in a spiritual relationship with Tom and couldn't extricate myself. In this virtual world, Tom was my everything, the driving force and hope of my life. I even began to fantasize about how wonderful it would be if I could live with Tom. However, I ignored the harm this was doing to my real marriage, and I didn't realize that I was taking one step after another towards an unknown abyss. It was just another ordinary day. As usual, I hid in the corner of the bedroom while Jack was at work, waiting for news from Tom with bated breath. The hands of the clock moved slowly, and every tick seemed to pound on my heart, with an indescribable sense of anticipation. Finally, the screen of my phone lit up and a message from Tom popped up. My fingers trembled slightly as I clicked to open it, and a short line of text came into view. "Lucy, I want to see you, to talk to you face to face." The moment I saw these words, my heart tightened as if it had been gripped tightly by an invisible hand. On the one hand, the longing for Tom in my heart was like an unstoppable tidal wave. I had imagined countless times meeting him, looking forward to actually feeling his warmth and hearing his magnetic voice in my ears. I imagined the smile we would exchange when we met, and the image was so beautiful that it made me intoxicated. However, on the other hand, fear was also ever present. Jack's figure kept popping up in my mind. I knew that I had already crossed the line with Tom, and if Jack found out that we had met, the consequences would be unimaginable. I was afraid of seeing Jack's angry eyes, afraid of facing his questions, and even more afraid of losing this marriage that was uneventful but still familiar. My inner turmoil was like a tangled ball of yarn, making me restless. I paced back and forth in the room, my fingers constantly tugging at the hem of my shirt, trying to calm myself down. Time passed by minute, but I was never able to make a decision. In the end, however, the longing for Tom overcame my fear. I trembled with my fingers and replied with a yes. The moment this word was sent, I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat accelerating. In the following days, as the day of our meeting drew closer, my nerves grew. I began to carefully select the clothes I would wear when I met Tom. I took one item after another from the closet and repeatedly tried them on in front of the mirror, but I never felt that they were perfect. When I applied my makeup, my hands trembled slightly, and the movements of the puff on my face became a bit awkward. I looked at myself in the mirror, my eyes filled with both anticipation and a hint of unease. I wondered how the upcoming meeting would change my life. Finally, the day of my meeting with Tom arrived. I arrived at the agreed-upon cafe an hour early and chose a seat by the window. Through the glass, I nervously watched the crowds coming and going on the street. Every passing figure made my heart tighten in anticipation that one of them would be Tom. Time passed by minute. Just as I was getting restless, a familiar figure appeared in my line of sight. It was Tom. He was wearing a simple white shirt, matched with a dark casual suit jacket and black trousers. He looked exceptionally tall and handsome. He was even more charming than in the photos. With his tall figure and broad shoulders, he seemed to give people an endless sense of security. He smiled as he walked towards me, and that smile was like a warm ray of sunshine, instantly dispelling the nervousness and unease in my heart. As he got closer, a faint, charming perfume drifted into my nostrils. It was fresh and unique, and I was entranced. "Lucy, I finally get to meet you," he said, his voice low and full of magnetism. It was as if there was some kind of magical power, making my heart beat faster uncontrollably. I smiled shyly and said softly, "I'm also very happy to meet you, Tom." We sat facing each other, and the waiter soon brought us coffee. Tom was very gentlemanly, adding sugar and stirring for me, and every move revealed his grace and thoughtfulness. We had a pleasant chat while drinking coffee. It seemed that we had endless topics to discuss, from our hobbies to each other's life experiences. During the conversation, I noticed that Tom's eyes were always focused on me, and that look was full of appreciation and admiration, which made me feel incredibly happy. He would listen carefully to every word I said, nodding in response from time to time, and would also give his own opinions and suggestions when appropriate. Our communication was so natural and smooth, as if we had known each other for many years and had just reunited. That day in the cafe, I felt a stirring in my heart that I had not felt for a long time. This feeling is something I had not experienced for a long time in my marriage with Jack. I was so absorbed in the time I spent with Tom that I forgot about the passage of time and temporarily forgot about the worries and pressures of real life. I just hope that this moment can stay forever so that I can always enjoy the sweetness and beauty. In the cafe, Tom's passionate advances were like a blazing fire, consuming my last shreds of sanity. His eyes were full of burning desire, and his gentle words were like candied fruit, intoxicating me and leaving me unable to extricate myself. He gently took my hand, and the warmth of his palm quickly spread through my arm and throughout my body, my heartbeat drumming like a drum. Under his guidance, we left the romantic cafe and walked towards the hotel not far away. Along the way, the image of Jack kept flashing through my mind. He was my once beloved husband and my partner of 5 years. Guilt washed over me like a tide, but Tom's hand was holding mine tightly, and the breath of his intoxicating aura surrounded me, making me struggle between guilt and desire. The moment we walked into the hotel room, I knew I had crossed an unpardonable moral line and committed an unforgivable mistake. The lights in the room were soft and intimate, and Tom gently embraced me in his arms. His kisses were full of burning passion and rained down on my face and lips. I closed my eyes, let go of all my concerns, and threw myself into this forbidden passion. Time seemed to have come to a standstill in that moment. When it was over, I lay quietly on the bed, looking at the ceiling as the guilt and unease in my heart came flooding back like a burst dam. I looked at Tom sleeping beside me, and the face that had once made my heart race felt strange to me now. I thought of Jack, of all the little things we had done together, those ordinary but warm days. Tears involuntarily slipped from the corners of my eyes and dripped onto the pillow, leaving a wet patch. I knew that I could never go back to the past. I had betrayed Jack in our marriage, and the heavy sense of guilt was suffocating me. I got up and silently dressed, every movement as if I had used up all my strength. When I opened the door and took that step, my heart was filled with fear and confusion about the future. I didn't know how to face Jack, how to face this broken family, and even less how to face myself. When I walked out of the hotel door, the sunlight outside was a little blinding, but my heart felt like it had fallen into an ice cellar, cold and piercing. After returning home from the hotel, I felt like a frightened bird, my nerves on edge. I tried my best to act as if nothing had happened, but I couldn't hide my inner panic. Jack seemed to sense my unusual behavior. His eyes, which had originally been looking at me, now had an added sense of scrutiny and doubt. Usually, Jack is always busy with work and rarely asks about the trivial matters at home. But this time, he started to pay attention to my every move. I changed my clothes and got ready to take a shower. His gaze followed me the whole time, as if he wanted to see through me. I didn't dare to make eye contact with him and hurried into the bathroom. I let out a sigh of relief the moment I closed the door. But during the shower, I always felt like there was a pair of eyes staring at me from behind, making me feel uncomfortable. Over the next few days, the feeling of being watched became even stronger. I was sitting on the sofa watching TV when he would casually lean over and glance at my phone screen seemingly by accident. I was cooking in the kitchen when he would come in from time to time, making excuses to talk to me, but his eyes were always wandering over my body. I knew that my unusual behavior had aroused his suspicion. Finally, what had to happen did happen. That day, I went out to take out the trash and forgot my phone on the coffee table in the living room. When I returned, Jack was standing in the middle of the living room, his face a terrible shade of gray, and he was holding my phone tightly in his hand. I immediately saw the chat history between Tom and me on the screen. Those words full of intimacy and sweetness were like sharp knives, stabbing my eyes. Jack's face was dark with anger, like the clouds before a storm. His hands trembled with rage, his knuckles white. "What is this?" His voice was low and hoarse, with suppressed fury. I opened my mouth to explain, but found that my throat was like a clog and I couldn't say a word. "You actually betrayed me." His voice rose sharply, echoing in the empty room. I looked at him, my heart full of fear and guilt. I wanted to say something to make it up to him, but the words circled around my mouth countless times before I finally swallowed them back. I knew that no matter what I said, it would not change the fact that I had betrayed him, and our marriage was in a complete crisis at this moment. Jack slammed his phone onto the sofa, the sharp sound like the prelude to the breaking up of our marriage. His eyes were bloodshot and full of anger, like an enraged beast, as he roared at me, "Lucy, how could you do such a thing? What have I ever done to you to deserve this betrayal?" I stood there, unable to stop trembling, my hands clasped tightly together, my fingernails digging into my palms, trying to calm myself with the pain. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but my throat felt like it was blocked, and the sound that came out was weak and dry. "Jack, I didn't mean to do it, Just what?" He took a sharp step forward, interrupting me, and his voice shook so much that it hurt my ears. "Just because you're lonely, you can just cheat on someone? We've been married for 5 years, and these 5 years of affection are worthless in your eyes." Tears welled up in my eyes. I was full of grievances and guilt, but I didn't know where to start. "Jack, I know I was wrong. I was just confused. I still love you. Can we start over?" I said with a tearful voice, almost pleading. Jack sneered, his laughter full of mockery and disappointment. "Start over? That's easy for you to say. Do you think this is a game? After what you've done, how can I trust you again?" He turned around and paced back and forth in the living room. His footsteps were heavy and rapid, and each step felt like he was stepping on my heart. "It's over between him and me, really. I promise I won't do it again," I explained anxiously, grasping at this last ray of hope. "Over? So what? Betrayal is betrayal, and the scar will always be there." Jack stopped in his tracks and stared at me with a look of determination that terrified me. We were at an impasse, the air thick with tension. Time passed by, and silence bound us together like an invisible net. My marriage was crumbling in the midst of this heated argument. I looked at the man I had once loved so dearly, and my heart was filled with remorse. I knew that the mistake I had made had caused irreparable harm to our marriage, but I didn't know how to make everything go back to the way it was. "Jack, please, give me a chance. I'll prove with my actions that I really know how to make things right," I walked up to him and tried to take his hand, but he shook it off. "Don't touch me," he said, disgusted, and walked away. "From now on, our relationship is over. I need time to think about what to do about this." With that, he grabbed his jacket, slammed the door, and left me alone in the empty room, overwhelmed by endless pain and self-blame. After that heated argument with Jack, my life fell into endless chaos and pain. I spent the whole day drowning in self-blame and remorse, with Jack's angry and disappointed eyes constantly flashing through my mind, along with the happy memories we had shared. At this time, Tom became my only source of solace, and I longed for his comfort and support, imagining that he could give me a solution to my current predicament. With trembling hands, I opened my phone and sent Tom a message, as I usually did. "Tom, I'm really suffering right now. Can you keep me company?" After sending the message, I held the phone tightly and stared at the screen without blinking, waiting for his reply. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes passed, but the screen remained motionless. My heart began to panic a little, and I sent several more messages in a row, but still got no response. I comforted myself, perhaps he was just too busy to see the message. So I sent a message every few minutes, from the initial gentle inquiry to the later anxious call, but Tom was like a person who had disappeared without a trace, without the slightest sound. I began to dial his phone, but what came from the other end was always the cold prompt. "The number you have dialed cannot be connected at the moment. Please try again later." My heart sank a little, and an ominous feeling came over me. I paced back and forth in the room, constantly going over our previous chat history. Those sweet words and warm concerns all felt like sharp knives, stabbing my heart. I recalled the excitement I felt when we first met, and the wonderful times we spent together. Were they all just an illusory dream? As time passed, I gradually realized that Tom might really never show up again. All my expectations and fantasies about the future had vanished in an instant. I finally understood that in this so-called relationship, I was nothing more than a plaything to him. He appeared at the most vulnerable time, giving me false warmth and affection, but when I was deeply involved and unable to extricate myself, he turned away without hesitation. Tears welled up uncontrollably in my eyes, and I felt utterly desperate and helpless. I was ashamed of my foolishness and gullibility, and I paid a heavy price for this wrong relationship. I lost Jack's trust, my formerly peaceful life, and now even my only support has disappeared. I curled up on the sofa, and the air around me seemed to have become cold and piercing. In this dark abyss, could not see the slightest glimmer of hope. In the days after Tom disappeared, I felt as if I were in a dark abyss, engulfed by endless pain and self-blame. At night, I often woke up from nightmares, in which Jack's angry eyes and Tom's indifferent departing back alternated, leaving me cold and sweating, my heart pounding. During the day, I looked at this home that was once full of warmth, but now is filled with a sense of oppression, and my heart was filled with remorse. Once, I resented Jack's busy schedule and was tired of our mundane married life, but when everything was about to be lost, I realized how deeply I loved him and this family. The details that I had ignored, such as Jack's careful care when I was sick and the sight of his back working hard to give me a better life, all came flooding back to me, and I was in tears. I began to re-examine my marriage and my life. I realized that in my pursuit of excitement, I had neglected the most important responsibilities and loyalty in marriage. I longed for new excitement, but forgot the little moments we had along the way, the storms we had weathered together, and the warmth of mutual support. I decided to apologize to Jack and try to salvage the relationship. I knew it would be a difficult road, and Jack's trust in me had been completely destroyed, so it would be hard to win it back. But I didn't want to give up, I didn't want to lose the man I once loved, and I didn't want to lose this family. I began to change myself, studying hard to learn how to cook, hoping to make up for my mistakes with delicious food. I would get up early and prepare a hearty breakfast for Jack. Although he always finished eating with a blank expression, I could feel that there seemed to be some subtle changes in his attitude. I also took the initiative to take on more household chores, keeping the house clean and tidy so that Jack could feel the warmth of home when he returned. I tried to communicate with Jack. Although at first he was always indifferent and even refused to listen to me, I did not give up. I sincerely expressed my remorse to him, told him about my internal struggles and pain, hoping that he could see the changes in me. As the days passed, Jack's attitude towards me gradually eased. Once, he saw me busy in the kitchen, and a complex emotion flashed in his eyes. At that moment, I knew that my efforts had not been in vain, and that there was still hope to salvage our marriage. I know that there is still a long way to go, and I need to spend more time and take more action to prove myself. But I believe that as long as I persevere and treat Jack with all my heart, we will definitely be able to rediscover the love we once had and fill our home with laughter again. I am willing to do whatever it takes to start over for the love of our family.